Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're connecting from. For those of you that might not know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Antonio.sangio, and I practice and teach introspective hypnosis and past life therapy. Other techniques that I practice are quantum healing hypnosis technique and life between lives. This is Michael Newton's technique. In my previous video, I talked about death and the process of death and how to just either be prepared for that moment or help our loved ones to be prepared for that moment. And important of dying properly. Let's put it that way. So right now, I would like to, or this time, I would like to talk about another topic that is it's very difficult, and there are different opinions about this from different people, and even from people that practice hypnosis, even from people that know about past life regressions. But I'll give you, well, my version, my information based on what I got during my sessions, based on what I learned, what I read, and what I studied. Antonio, is that the truth? Nobody's the owner of the truth. This is my truth, and it seems that some of my clients from different countries, cultures, languages, right, experience the same thing in past lives. Antonio, how come they are alive? They haven't committed suicide yet. Well, some of them committed suicide in past lives, and when you commit suicide in past life, that is not over. You still bring a lot of issues to the current life. So let's talk about that for a moment, okay? Let me start by reading to you what the Spirit's book says about suicide. The Spirit's book, written by Allan Kardec, right? I also mentioned that in my previous video. Allan Kardec, it's the coder of the Spiritist doctrine or Spirita doctrine, and this information, this book was written. Is based on questions to spirits and the answers given to spirits give through mediums, right? So in the book, in this book, every every section has a number, and every question has a number. So let's take a look at question 944. What does he say? I'll read what the book says, and then I'll talk about what I think about it, right? Do people have the right to take their own life? That's question number 944. The answer is no. Only God has the right. Those who intentionally commit suicide commit a transgression against this law. There are some laws, some information that is also given at the end of the book. If you want to understand the law, we're not talking about the laws of the country, right? This is the laws of the spirits. The other question, again, within question number 944, is suicide always intentional? Is suicide always intentional? The answer is insane individuals who kill themselves do not know what they are doing, right? Question number 945. What is to be thought of those who commit suicide because they are dissatisfied with life? Foley. Why didn't they work? Life would not have seemed so heavy to them. And let me go to the last one I'm going to mention. Question 946. What about those who resort to suicide in order to escape from the troubles and disappointments of this world? Poor spirits who don't have the courage to bear the misfortunes of life. God help those who suffer, but not those who have neither strength nor courage. The tribulations of life are meant as trials or expiations. Happy are they who bear them without complaining, for they shall be rewarded. But woe to those who in their impiety hope to find salvation in chance or luck, to borrow their own language, right? May in fact favor them a moment, but only to make them later and more cruelly feel the emptiness of these words. What this is saying is that even though you're thinking you're killing yourself to escape from this, yeah, you're going to escape this temporarily, but then it's going to be more complicated. So, what happens with suicide, right? A lot of people say, well, we have free will and we have the right to exercise our free will the same way we choose to incarnate at a specific time. And the same way we choose our lessons, we have the right to kill ourselves, to commit suicide. Well, it's true. We have free will up here and I mean up there and here, right? We have free will. But that free will has consequences, right? If we do the right thing, obviously we're not going to suffer any negative consequences. But if we decide to kill ourselves, this is not me saying it, this is the spirits are saying this, it is not the right thing to do. So let's talk about this. What I encounter in my sessions, people that in past lives committed suicide, they started experiencing problems in these lives almost as soon as they had consciousness. Why is this? Let's understand. Our soul doesn't understand time. Our soul is timeless. And I always give the same example, right? We could have lived a life in Egypt 3,000 years ago, but for our soul, this just took place. Not only that, if we had, let's say, a traumatic death in Egypt 3,000 years ago, let's say that we were buried alive, right? For our soul, it's not that it just took place. For our soul, this is still happening, right? So the soul remembers. The soul is the one that brings all of these traumas, right? So whenever I go to an elevator, let's say, the soul remembers part of me is trapped. It's still in that life in Egypt. Part of my energy is trapped. So whenever I get into an elevator or a plane or a train, I start reacting the same way I reacted when I was buried alive. Why? Because part of my energy is still trapped in that event. Why? Because my soul was not able to process that event completely at three levels: physical, emotional, and mental. I don't want to confuse you, but let me put it this way. The soul again doesn't understand time. If somebody committed suicide in a past life, there's still something that is pending. What's interesting to find out is the emotional state that they were in when they committed suicide, what they were thinking, the decisions that they made at that moment, or whatever made them take that decision of killing themselves in that life. It's important to know that in my sessions. Why? Because again, I learned this from my teacher, Jose Luis Cabuli, but I was able to confirm that through my sessions because if we commit suicide in a past life, we recreate that emotional state in this life. Why? Because the soul doesn't understand time. For the soul, everything is happening now. That event that is pending, or within what's pending there, is still pending now. We do not resolve anything by killing ourselves. Everything continues, everything remains the same, and I will say even worse. If you watch the movie Kardec, based on the life of Allan Kardec, you'll see a person that committed suicide, and it manifested through one of the mediums. And this spirit said, right, I'm still suffering. That has not done anything to me. I'm still suffering, feeling the same pain. So, is it a good idea to commit suicide? No. The spirits book say, spirits say it's not a good idea. You're ending your lesson because you think this is too much for you. Because you think this is complicated, but it's like when we go to school, doesn't matter how complicated it is and how much we think like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to learn math, I don't want to learn algebra, not because you decide to go home and say, oh, I'm not coming back to school, that's going to go away. You need to, register to school the next year, and next year is going to be even more complicated because you have new things to learn plus the ones that you have pending, right? Following the logic. So, whenever you find somebody that is thinking about committing suicide, talk to them about this. Explain to them that what dies is the body, not the spirit, not the soul. The soul is going to keep and carry everything they were feeling before they kill their body to the next life, and it's going to be worse. Antonio, that is easy to say. You don't know how it feels when somebody wants to commit suicide. Yes, it's true. I don't know. But what I know is about the consequences. So how can we help them? How can we help them overcome this? How can we help them, or how can we prevent that they don't kill themselves? Teach them about spirituality. Teach them about the laws of the spirits gave that God gave. Is also in that book. um, explain to them that the death of the body is not going to do anything. The same way we bring symptoms from previous life, right? Let's say I don't know, I was hanged in one of my past lives. In this life, I might feel like I don't wear anything around my neck because I feel that I could be feeling that I'm choking. We bring the same consequences from a suicide, and it's going to be even worse. So explain to them and help them face the situation. The solution in every lesson that is sent to us, in every lesson that most of the time we plan ourselves, it's not to run away from it. It's not to turn the back or pretend that it doesn't exist, that it's not there. Because if we run away from that, it's going to chase us. If we pretend that doesn't exist, it's going to keep coming back to us over and over. So the solution is to face those lessons, to finally learn the lesson and be ready for the next one, because this is school. We come here to learn. The spirits also mentioned that in one of the questions asked about purgatory, does purgatory exist, right? And the spirits say, well, consider your life in the physical body to be the purgatory, because we come here to learn, we come here to experience the consequences of our actions, positive or negative. Let's talk about karma, which is not a punishment, it's the law of action and reaction, right? And we come here in this body to experience a lot of things, and a lot of the things that we experience are through emotions, and sometimes we learn in suffering, but suffering is an amplifier for learning. So consider this to be purgatory. Anyway, I wanted to share with you about suicide and how important it is to understand that we should not end our lives, not even if, because this also says, spirits talk about that, even if you're sick and you know you're going to die and you know that you might suffer as the body is dying, you're not supposed to kill yourself. We're not supposed to end the life of anybody to save time or to avoid any suffering. It is part of the lessons that we have to experience. Anyway, I hope you find this information useful. It will be until next time. Thank you, and bye-bye.